guest speakers who serve with the Carolina College Advising Corps to share a little bit more about that program, what they're seeing in their schools. Hopefully, can have a good conversation about how we're all serving students. A few general SACAC updates, some more relevant updates to our state. We hope here also you all will share things that you're noticing, trends that would be helpful for the good of all. And then if we have any time left, a little Q&A and wrap up. We're scheduled till 11:30, but we'll see kind of what time we need today. So I recognize some names on the Zoom, but I know I don't know all of you. My name is Allee Olive. I'm a Senior Assistant Director of Admissions at UNC Chapel Hill. This is my 9th year in UNC's admissions office. I work pretty closely with our evaluation process, and Renee and I have been in this role. This is our 2nd year. So I will turn it over to Renee to introduce herself.
Thank you, Allie. Hi, everyone. I'm Renee Ferrerio, and I do know a lot of you, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm the Director of College Counseling at the O'Neill School down in Southern Pines, about an hour south of Raleigh. And this is my 8th year here at the O'Neill School. And so, yes, Allie and I have been doing this for 2 years, so we feel like we're professionals at this point after 2 years of this. So I think we can go to the next slide and kind of get started. So for those of you, I know many of you on the call are SACAC members, but for those of you who are not, what is SACAC? Who is SACAC? So we are an organization that supports and engages its collaborative network of enrollment and counseling professionals by promoting ethical responsibility, professional growth, access, advocacy, and outreach to help all students realize their post-secondary educational goals. And so we're a regional affiliate of NACAC, which is the National Association for College Admissions Counseling. And our organization includes 9 states, including the Caribbean. And the membership goes from September 1 through August 31st. The cost is $45 per member, but we'll get a little bit more into this later at the end under the updates section. Public school counselors and CBOs actually get free membership. So we'll have a QR code, I believe, that you can scan at the end of the slides. All right, you go on to the next one. Okay, so this committee that Allie and I chair or co-chair is the State and Area Initiatives Committee. And our committee, I guess our role of the committee is to kind of corral all the other committees, which you see here on this slide, so that they can give some updates on what is going on in their particular work that they're doing with SACAC. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to let each committee, and not every single one of these committees will be here, but for the ones that are going to be here that have some things to share, that you're going to get to hear from them directly about what's going on and things that you could possibly participate in. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so for the first committee, we have the Communications Committee, and we should have Pamela Bowie here to give some updates. Pamela, are you here? Okay. Maybe, Pamela, are you here? If not, we could go and just show the slides and show what this is about. So let's see. Communications Committee works to connect SACAC members with one another, to connect members with association leadership, to connect members with, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was having some.
Oh, it's okay. All right, Pamela, you take it over. How are you?
Yes, doing just fine. How are you all? Thank you so much. Sorry about those technical difficulties. That's what happens when you're running from meeting to meeting sometimes. But I am here. My name is Pamela Bowie. I am currently the Director of Admissions at Baptist Health Sciences University in Memphis, Tennessee. And I have the privilege of sharing the Communications Committee workload with Celeste Cerise Roselli Esquire, who is the Director of College Counseling at the Baldwin School of Puerto Rico. And so I just want to share a little bit about our work and maybe how you can get involved if that's something of interest to you. So for the Communications Committee, obviously with a name like Communications Committee, we're working to get information out to the membership, but specifically we work to make sure that you all feel connected to one another, whether that's by sharing perspectives, featuring members who are doing something cool or institutions that have great programming going on. And we want you all to connect with association leadership as well. So you have kind of a glimpse into what we're doing and what we're working on, which is part of these updates today. So you know who those leaders are, what kind of conversations we're having, and what type of services we're trying to bring to you as the membership. And we also want to make sure that we're going over those trends, hot topics. If you check your email regularly, you'll see that we do send, updates each week. We also have the Southern Scope, which is our quarterly blog, where we really try to bring to the forefront those things that are impacting our work day to day with our students as we attempt to help them find, the best pathway post-secondary. And then also, of course, connecting you all with information about SACAC programs and initiatives. Again, the state meetings, drive-in workshops at the state and area level are a great way to do that. But also as our communications go out, whether that's email or social media, we want to make sure that you know exactly what's going on with SACAC and how you can lean into those resources that we try to provide you as members to help you in your day-to-day work. So primarily working through getting that Southern Scope compiled and out to everyone. We also work very closely with the presidential team as they have the need to send out statements about particular topics. Obviously, over the last several months, we've had statements go out specifically about the SCOTUS decision over the summer, but also about, some of the activity that's been going on our campuses. Whenever we unfortunately have acts of violence that go on our campuses, we want to make sure that we acknowledge that and connect our members to any resources or ways that they can help if they're interested in doing so. And the fun part, I think, about Communications Committee is that we get to work with all the other board committees to just advise them and be a sounding board. If they're wanting to roll out a new initiative or a new program, how do we communicate that as efficiently as possible to the membership? So if you want to get involved, we actually have a communication advisory board that drives the content for the Southern Scope blog that goes out quarterly. And that application opens up in May every year. So be on the lookout for that application. And of course, if you have any pictures or story ideas, you can submit those to our board email address, which is just communications@sacac.org. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, please let us know. But just be on the lookout, watch your email, watch your social media as we continue to communicate with you guys.
Thank you, Pamela. Really appreciate that. We are going to switch over to the Government Relations Committee, and we should have Jane Ann on the call. Jane Ann, are you there?
I am here.
Yay, hi.
I just want to say, well, in the spring, I hope, well, first of all, two exciting things that have been happening in college admissions for us in North Carolina is that UNC and UNCA have announced free tuition for students whose families earn under $80,000. So that's great news for our students who are applying. We are looking to see what's going to happen with our testing next year. The North Carolina Board of Governors has initiated the requirement for students to submit test scores for next year for college admissions, and that will be an interesting change from having it be test optional from COVID. And we are hoping to actually go to Raleigh to knock on doors and talk to reps at the Senate and House in the spring, like we've done in the past, instead of having to try to reach them virtually, which I think has been challenging for us in the past couple of years. So hopefully it'll be late spring probably when they're back in session and we go up there to knock on doors. So look for that. And I am looking for a co-chair. So I had a co-chair who had to step down because of personal reasons. So if anyone out there is interested in being co-chair for government relations, that would be great. That is about what we're doing right now. So contact me at my email address. I guess I could put it in the chat, right? I can put my email address in the chat, and if anybody is interested in working with legislative and changes and what's going on in admissions, please feel free or contact me, and we could start looking at things for the spring for our active meeting.
Okay, Jane Ann, somebody put a question that they wanted, if you could repeat what you said about UNC. I think you said UNC Asheville and UNC.
Yeah, UNC Asheville and UNC have both just announced recently that if families make under $80,000, that tuition will be free, not room and board, but the tuition will be free. And that has really been great for a lot of our kids. I'm in a public school, and that has, it's encouraged kids who weren't even considering going to a four-year institution to now consider it. A lot of those kids were just planning to go to community college and then transition in because of affordability. But that has been really exciting news that we're seeing that UNC is making college, not just community college, but college more affordable.
Okay, and so just to clarify, that was UNC Asheville and UNC Chapel Hill, correct?
That is both of
Okay.
them families that earn under $80,000.
Okay, and then we have another question that was about the test optional. So you're saying that they're thinking about what's going to happen in 2025?
I was told that the Board of Governors has already made the decision that test scores will be mandatory next year. Okay. And schools are saying to me, like the people that I've reached out to are saying it's not necessarily that they will use the scores, but they will have to be submitted. So, I mean, a lot of colleges are saying we're still not going to use those scores against students. We'll only use those scores when it is in favor of them or shows how proficient they are. But, and they're also saying students can say, I don't believe that my score is an accurate reflection of my academic ability or efforts. But they are saying that students will have to submit them.
Okay, but this is not official yet. They haven't like announced it. Is that correct?
I was told at a meeting by someone who works with them, but yes, I don't know that I don't know that the Board of Governors has announced it yet.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for,
and yes, it is for fall of 2024.
Okay.
The free tuition.
Okay. And there's this Advocacy 101 on December 5th. Is that going to be like a webinar or something?
Yes, we'll have a webinar on December 5th.
Okay. All right.
And we'll probably send out a survey. I'll probably send out a survey before then just to get some questions so that I can make sure that we're addressing questions that are out there for what's happening in North Carolina or issues of concern, such as funding, or I know in the past it's been sometimes counselor-student ratios has been an issue for us, and I'm sure it has been in other states as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have
Hi, everyone.
The Finance Committee. There's Justine. Hi, Justine.
Hi, good morning. I hope everyone's doing well. Great to see so many faces. My name is Justine Okerson, and myself and Iris Martinez oversee the Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee is really passionate about providing access to education and professional development. So there's two items that we oversee. If you want to just go ahead and go to the next slide. And thank you so much. So first is the Counselor Participation Fund. We affectionately refer to it as CPF, but this really allows allows our members to attend different professional development events like annual conference, summer seminar, sweet tea, and dry run. Preference is offered to those counselors who have limited funding to attend those professional development opportunities. This year is a little kind of a one-off just because annual conference is a little bit earlier. So we did do the CPF a little earlier this year for conference, but it will be open in the spring for all of those summer opportunities. So if you're interested in summer seminars, sweet tea, or dry run, no worries. You will have opportunities to apply for that. I will drop that link in the chat very soon. But again, that should open up in late January or early February if you're interested in one of those opportunities. We were lucky last year to have some really great faculty at dry run and summer seminar from North Carolina. So we want to keep that going. Next is extending funding the dream, this is a really great opportunity to be able to fund a special project in your community to help serve college-bound students and really give them, again, more access to education and opportunities for their own development as well. If you're interested but thinking to yourself, what is a good idea of a grant? We normally have different webinars right before that grant deadline opens for applications, just to give you ideas of what's happened and worked well in the past. But we are thrilled to be able to promote those opportunities and help you to make a difference in your community as well. So I think that's all for me, but I'm going to drop some links in the chat. Thanks again.
Thank you, Justine. Appreciate that. Juan, are you here?
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Juan.
Good morning. It's so good to see so many familiar faces here this morning. My name is Juan Acosta, and along with Lucy Smith from Charlotte Latin, we are co-chairs for Inclusion, Access, and Success. And if we could go to the next slide. So we're doing a couple of things this year. We reimagined the way we were approaching the book club, particularly this fall, keeping in mind that the fall is a very busy time for everyone with travel and working with kids through their applications. So what we did this year is we did a discussion club where we focused on different forms of media, from podcasts to TV shows, et cetera. And so that happened this fall. We will go back to a traditional book club in the spring. So if you're interested in that, we will be reading So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. So be on the lookout for emails on that. We are also pretty active, and we could go to the next slide, actually. We do host the college admission workshops. And so I want to thank everyone in this meeting that has helped us with these, because we really couldn't do the work without you. In the spring, in addition to the traditional topics that we've posted, we are looking to do a panel and highlight minority serving institutions along with single gender institutions. So if you would like to be active or participate in any of those panels, feel free to reach out to any of us. And then we also went back last year to hosting our in-person college admission workshops. So if we could go to the next slide, please. And we will have one in Charlotte. Haley Cripps from Charlotte Land will be the person overseeing that program. We don't have a date yet, but if you're interested in assisting with that, you could reach out to her. And then every year at the annual conference, we have an outreach program. So we will host a admission workshop at the conference. It's that Saturday right before the conference starts. I know that there might be a couple of conflicts with the NACA College Fair, but if you're available and interested, please feel free to reach out to us, and be on the lookout for more information on ways that you could get involved in those weekly emails. And I think that is all for me, and thank you all, and have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Juan. Okay, we have Shannon up next.
I'm here. My video's not working though. Oh, maybe.
Hi, Shannon. There you are.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, North Carolina. I'm Shannon Ferrerio. I am at Metairie Park Country Day School just outside of New Orleans in Louisiana. And I'm here representing the Member Relations Committee. I also serve alongside of Crystal Livingston and Brent Shropshire. And that's our contact information if you're looking to get in touch with us. So just to give you kind of overview of membership, we look at membership monthly, and as Renee said, we opened membership back up in September, and so it continues to grow throughout the year. This is the last time we checked. We have 1,774 members total, and 423 are members through our free access membership. That's for public high school counselors or college access counselors in community-based organizations. And so we really hope to spread the word out. If you're either traveling for recruitment, or if you're ever in public high schools, please mention the free access membership. North Carolina is doing really well. Y'all are the third largest member state with 270 members, and 87 of those members are with that free access membership. So really carrying SACAC with Georgia and Florida. So a couple things that the Member Relations Committee kind of oversees is the special interest groups and the conference hosting program. Everything that's highlighted is going to be have open positions right now. We're currently looking for special interest group leaders for the Asian American Pacific Islander SIG. There's one current leader, so we're looking for one leader there. For campus tours, tour guides, and programmers, if you're interested, we have 2 of those leadership positions available, and community-based organizations. We have some veterans in that position that have been working with the CBO SIG for quite a while, doing great work, but have some leadership potential there. And then conference hosting, Ebony Levitt is our current conference host chair. She will be rolling off after Raleigh. And so this is a 2-year position. We will be sending out an application for that. We have not released that application yet. And then the mentorship program has kind of been a little dormant for the last couple of years. And we're looking to revamp that program. We have one current mentorship chair, and we're looking to have 2 join her to revive that program. And then a couple of ways to get involved. The volunteer form is great to fill out. I do find that there's more, some committees have application processes and some will fill from the volunteer form. So that's always good to fill out. And especially as conference approaches, we're going to need a lot of volunteers to help out. But we always need webinar presenters or content creators. Earlier, government relations was mentioned. Going to the Capitol in Raleigh is a great way to advocate for students and open access and break down barriers. So I highly encourage anyone who hasn't been. If it's anything like ours, we go to the state capitol in Baton Rouge, and it's just a really meaningful day just to see how government works in general. You get to sit in on some education committee meetings sometimes and meet with senators or representatives. So I can't encourage that enough. And then look out for those committee vacancies that are coming up. I think yesterday the board sent out applications for to either nominate someone for an award as we approach conference, and then also to either nominate yourself or nominate someone else for board service, board leadership. If you know someone out there that would be really great to represent SACAC, please nominate yourself or someone else. And then a couple of other ways to contribute. Pamela mentioned Communications Committee does Southern Scope, but if you have written any piece lately or have an idea about something you'd like to write on, or if you want to collaborate with someone, just reach out to Communications and they can help partner you with someone for a Southern Scope topic, or write one individually. And then of course proposals. I think right now we've passed the conference proposal date, and most drive-in sessions are kind of kicking along. I know Louisiana's still looking for some topics or some presenters. So if you have an idea for a session proposal, please do that when those opportunities come up. And then we're always looking for revenue generating ideas in SACAC. So if you know someone that's interested in sponsoring, or if you have an idea about how to generate income for SACAC, that is really helpful. It's been really nice to talk to you and see some of my North Carolina friends on here. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you, Shannon. We appreciate it. Okay, I think we have Courtney up next.
I am here. Hi, everybody.
Hi,
I'm Courtney Vaughn, one of the professional development co-chairs alongside Allison North, and a previous North Carolina State member. So it's great to see all of the folks on the call today. But we've got a lot coming up in professional development. You guys have probably seen a couple of emails and calls for different chairs and things, but I want to talk through a few of our programs that you all have to look forward to. Really next summer, a lot of our big heavy hitting programs happen over the summer months, but we're certainly in the midst of planning them now. So there are 2 programs that are really for new members to the profession. One is Summer Seminar, which is for new college counselors. And this is a 4-day mini conference that happens on a college campus, where we train new college counselors on everything there is, from how to write rec letters to hosting college visits to how to navigate college tours and build lists, kind of the whole 9. So we are really excited for the program to happen this June, and it might be in a place that is familiar to you all. That'll be announced very soon. The other program is Dry Run. This is for new college admissions professionals. So if you are a decision maker in your office or you anticipate new members joining your team, this is a fantastic program, a signature program that we have in SACAC that is recognized and modeled after of other affiliates for new college folks. So that is everything from travel planning to making sure you get your points if you can, to how to have a successful high school visit. So we are really excited to have Georgia Southern hosting us this year down in their Savannah campus. For both of these programs, we have done our call for chairs. But if you'd like to be involved in these, we will be doing a call for faculty in the new year. So if you feel like you would like to share your expertise or experience with new members, or you feel like you have a lot to share, we definitely hope to see your application and keep an eye out in the new year as we start to get that underway. Another program that is like, it's PD, but it's definitely its own committee and such. Anita Waugh is our conference chair for SACAC, but the annual conference is this year at the end of March. It's a month earlier than usual up in Raleigh at the Convention Center. 3-day event, which is just an excellent way to connect with folks in the Southern region and even some outside who join us. Really excited to be in North Carolina this year. And so we hope to have obviously strong North Carolina representation at conference and really glad about it. So that registration, I think, should be happening probably in the new year as well. So we'll get through all the holiday and long breaks before we get registered for those things. And then I think, next is the Sweet Tea Tour. So if you are a college counselor, you're on the high school side in any capacity, the Sweet Tea Tour is an awesome opportunity where we are able to highlight a state or region in the South and take counselors out on the road. This year, we're going to be going all around South Carolina for 5 days. And so you can see kind of the lineup there. Super excited for the range of schools that we have on the Sweet Tea Tour every year, and excited to highlight one of the Carolinas. Sweet Tea Tour is the first week of June. I will preface this by saying registration fills for Sweet Tea really, really quickly. We are at the mercy of the number of seats that we have on the bus. So if you are on the high school side and interested in this, keep an eye out on your inbox for when that opens. The last thing I want to mention that is not on a slide is SACAC Leads, which is a leadership development program that we have within SACAC, and is a fantastic opportunity if you are kind of maybe like a middle management position to develop those skills, not only for your role, but then also within SACAC if you're looking for that extra opportunity to be involved. So things like, so we have a faculty for that, usually have 10 plus years of experience. And then folks between 5 and 10 years are usually participants for that, but a really fantastic virtual opportunity with a curriculum that finishes at conference with an in-person breakfast. But I hope that you can see how all of these things link together, from Justine talking about Counselor Participation Fund to Shannon talking about the volunteer form. Please fill those out if you want to be involved in these types of programs. We are looking at those different lists and reaching out to folks, especially when we put out these calls for applications. So thanks for having me here. It's great to see North Carolina friends again. I miss you guys, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Courtney. Okay, so the next one is the Advancement Committee, and Julia is not here. So I'm going to just briefly give an overview on advancement. So Allie, if you can go to the next slide. So as Courtney just said, we are going to be holding the annual conference in Raleigh in March. And this is the time that this committee is encouraging sponsors to give money to help out with the conference. So there is an interest form, and I think that exhibitor registration opens up in December, so that should be coming up in the next couple of weeks. If you want to go to the next slide, this kind of gives an overview of the different sponsorship levels and what you can get from that sponsorship. So if you are working for a company or a college or even a school, a secondary school, and you guys are able to give at any of these levels, that would really help with the conference as everybody's planning. And I think that I am going to turn this over to Allie, and she's going to introduce our College Advising Corps.
Yeah, thanks, Renee. I was just double checking because I told them they could join at 10:30, thinking it would take us a while to get through our announcements. So I think maybe one person's here. Might need to give them another minute or two, but I can kind of start with an introduction. As Renee and I were talking about this, we were thinking about some different topics kind of for open discussion that would be for the good of the group, and thought that it might be nice to get some insight from some of the advisors in the Carolina College Advising Corps. I used to serve in the College Advising Corps maybe 12 years ago. I worked in Chatham County at Jordan Matthews and Chatham Central High Schools, and had a really great experience. It kind of started my trajectory in higher education. So just wanted to give a little background to the program for those that weren't familiar, though I know many of you are. So the Carolina College Advising Corps is a branch of the National College Advising Corps. CCAC is often what it goes by. Again, love an acronym. In North Carolina, there are advising corps out of Appalachian State, Duke, NC State, UNC Chapel Hill, and UNC Wilmington. And really the goal of the advising corps, their mission is to help low-income, first-generation, and underrepresented North Carolina high school students attend a college that will serve them well by placing recent college grads as college advisors in public schools throughout the state. Many of you know that counselor to student ratios can often be really high, and there are so many needs in a school, social, emotional, graduation, retention. So this is really to help have that focus on that college advising. The Corps currently has 65 advisors serving in 81 high schools across the state in 34 different counties. So again, there's even more served by all of the corps, but here's just a look at where the Carolina College Advising Corps members are. So those are all the different high schools and counties that are served. App has more kind of in the western part of the state, UNC Wilmington in the southeastern part of the state, State and Duke more kind of in the eastern region. So we are hopefully joined, let me double check, by, oh yeah, I think I see, yes, everybody's here, awesome. By 3 current advisors that serve kind of across the state. So I will let each of them introduce themselves. So Brennan, if you wanna go first.
Yeah, thank you again for having me here today. I really appreciate it. So my name is Brennan Day. I currently serve, I'm a second-year advisor. This is my second year serving at Surrey Central High School in Surrey Early College. And I actually lucked out and I actually graduated from Surrey Central High School. So it is really nice to be back in my county and serving a rural part of North Carolina.
Awesome, thanks, Brennan. Jordan?
Yeah, so I'm Jordan. I'm working out at A.L. Brown High School in Kannapolis. I got to walk out. Our Wi-Fi is a real situation here. And I ended up graduating from UNC Chapel Hill as well. First year out in the Corps, so it's really great to help these students out over here.
Awesome, thanks, Jordan. Live on the scene in the high school. And lastly, we have Brianna.
Hey y'all, I'm Brianna Ledbetter, and this is my second year working at First Light High School and Cape Hatteras Secondary School out in Kill Devil Hills. Like my 2 counterparts, I also graduated from UNC Chapel Hill.
Great, so I had a few questions prepared to ask them to kind of start the discussion, but then I think if others have questions or things they want to add, we can definitely open it up if you want to use the chat or unmute yourself. So the first question, and again, if you all want to answer, if 1 or 2 of you want to answer to cover it, what do you wish colleges understood about your students?
I can go ahead and take this one. I would say one thing that I really wish colleges understood about my students is that we are in a rural area. So with students being in a rural area, we're limited to opportunities. Some of my students have to work anywhere between 30 to 40 hours at a full-time or part-time job. And a lot of them have family responsibilities. So their application might look very different compared to a student that lives in a more urban city like Raleigh, Charlotte, just because a lot of these students, in order for them to get access to opportunities, they have to travel at least an hour. The closest city to us is Winston-Salem, which is roughly an hour away. And so a lot of these students have so much that they're balancing, and on their application, it kind of looks like they don't have as much compared to some of those other applicants. So I really wish some of the admissions would take into account ability of some of our students. And even though their application might look a little bit more smaller compared to one of those students, they are trying their hardest to get involved in a lot of stuff. A lot of these students balance sports, club and activities that we have offered here, and then of course part-time jobs and family responsibilities. We actually have like 3 AP classes in my at Surrey Central High School. And of course, we have our community college. So a lot of students take community college credit hours. And so we're limited by the amount of things that we have offered here. So I just like to remind a lot of colleges, our students are awesome students, but they just kind of have limited resources to opportunities.
Thanks, Brennan.
Yeah, I'll honestly just second that. If you're not aware, I live on an island. So some of my kids have never left the island. So they, to get to Raleigh is about 4 hours from here. So if they want to go somewhere urban, it's very, very hard for my students to get off this island and get out of this community. Just solely based on like distance constraints, not even like family obligations or anything like that. But like Brennan, a lot of my students, might not have access to the same opportunities that a lot of more urban students have. And also, so I won't I'll spare you just repeating what Brennan said, but my students, especially, I work with a largely first generation student population. My community is very workforce and trade oriented, more so than college. So I find that my students also really lack the knowledge base too. There's no sort of generational knowledge base here for a lot of my students. So a lot of what they're hearing about from me senior year, sometimes that's the first time they've ever heard what it takes to go to college. So their applications do look incredibly different from other schools, but I think it's just something important to keep in mind because I do think they could be very successful in higher education. I think it's just finding somewhere that they could to give them a chance and also to sort of ease them into this transition.
Yeah, it's kind of the same here. Of course, Kannapolis is about, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so from Charlotte. So in terms of distance, it's not really a problem, but it's kind of the opposite thing in terms of opportunity. A lot of them, a lot of working class families, a lot of low income. So a lot of them don't have transportation. They can't get places and things like that. So it's hard because a lot of them, I'm like, have you ever seen, UNC Charlotte? I live on campus over there. It's about 25-minute drive. I'm like, have you ever seen that? No. I'm like, really? Like, yeah, no, I just don't have anybody to take me over there. Like, I can't get over there. So like, that's a big barrier. And same thing as what Brianna was saying, a big first gen kind of base. So it'll be stuff that, of course, this is my first year too, so I'm realizing a lot of things for the first time as well. But I'll be telling them, I'm like, yeah, so do you know about this deadline or what this means? And they're like, no, what is that? Because it's the first time they've ever heard it. So that knowledge barrier is also a big thing.
Yeah, I definitely say the knowledge barrier just because I have as many of you know, there's so many terms that we use in the college application process. And so I think it's very important that I've noticed on some applications, they have a little link to further explain what these terminology means and stuff. And that has been extremely helpful for my students just because we throw so many different terms at them and they get so confused about, especially between early action and early decision. And so I think it has been great to see on some applications where they exclude those definitions and they also include links that further explain some of those, which has been extremely helpful. I wish all colleges did that just because a lot of our students, first generation, first time they're hearing this. So.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I think that's really helpful to know just the transportation barriers or just to even get involved in something. You all kind of answered leading into our next question, so try to make it a little bit specific. I know you shared some kind of barriers to enhance that extracurricular list or terminology barriers, but maybe really specific to the college application or the college application process. What are some of the biggest barriers you see in your schools?
I think for my school, one of the biggest barriers I see is honestly just still the lingering effects of COVID. And I know that's not something a lot of us can fix, but I know at my school in particular, my students are very, very behind, especially in writing. So when it comes time to write that college essay, a lot of times, like, we're starting from scratch. So the essay that y'all get from my students' applications, they've met with me so many times about writing it, because and what you see is so different than what they came into my office with initially. And I know that's something my students are really, really still struggling with, is just being behind in like writing and reading and stuff like that.
Same thing here. Um, that's a yeah, that's a huge problem here. I noticed, like, as I'm looking at people's stuff and things like that, and I'm like, well, have you ever, it's just things that would be general to, like, I guess what were obvious to me in certain spots. I'm like, well, have you ever thought about doing this, like in terms of different grammar things, stuff we learn in a lot of my English classes, but a lot of them, like Brianna said, are behind, because there's just so much going on. It's hard to catch them up once you kind of fall back a little bit. So that's a big problem. And then also, this is a little bit more general, but kind of tying into the knowledge based part, because you don't really know what you don't know. So a lot of them don't really know what to ask. So you really are just starting from scratch, like in a lot of things. So
Yeah, another thing I would also add too is a lot of my students have been struggling with RDS, that section of the college application process. For a lot of my students, some of their parents don't have social security numbers, and that is an extremely huge barrier. Even though their parents might have lived in North Carolina for at least 20 plus years, that has been a huge barrier that my students face. So just trying to go through the appeal process with RDS to try to get them in-state tuition, even though they've lived here their whole life. That's a huge barrier I face every day. I actually have a meeting with a student later today to go through the appeal process. So that's a big thing. And another thing, I actually serve in early college high school. So a lot of my students will be earning their associates while as a high school student. And a thing that we've been facing is, knowing and understanding what credits are actually going to transfer to these universities. So, and a lot of my students are like, well, do I apply as a first year student? Do I apply as a transfer student? So it's been a lot of things from our early college students that are kind of up in the air. Some people don't recognize that they're getting their associates. So we have a lot of conversations directly with admissions to ask about like the application process, how it's a little bit different for my early college students. So those are some of the barriers that we face.
Thank you all so much for sharing. So I just have one more question that I'll ask, and then I think there was maybe a question in the chat. So if other people have questions or just kind of want to share their own experiences with some of these issues, we welcome that discussion. So lastly, kind of how has your school community responded to changes in college admissions this year? Thinking the upcoming FAFSA simplification and the FAFSA coming out later, the Supreme Court decision, has there been talk in your school communities about some of these changes? Kind of what have you seen?
Yeah, I would say some of the FAFSA changes, a lot of my students, this is like so for some of my students who have older siblings that have done FAFSA, and for those parents, they're like, oh yeah, I've heard about the changes, like this is going to be big. I'm really nervous about these FAFSA changes. But for a lot of my students who are the oldest sibling, the first in the family to ever go to college, they're like, what's FAFSA? So a lot of students have not really been paying attention to these changes. I'm basically the person that gives them this information, and they rely on me to give them the updates and everything. So I think for the parents and students that do know about these changes, they're very worried about it, just because, I mean, with FAFSA in the past, there's always can be some kind of issue. I know last year we had a lot of issues with trying to verify their email and their phone number. Now, that was like a huge issue we had last year. So I know with some of those parents and students this is the second time that they're doing FAFSA, they're like, oh yeah, like, I don't know how this update's going to go. And they're really worried, especially with it starting in January. Like, when are we getting our financial aid award letters? Is that going to delay that? I'm going to have enough time to figure out what college I want to go to. But for some of those students, this is the first time they don't even know what FAFSA is. And so they, going into this is the first time they've ever saw the application. Those are some of the things. I will say a lot of my coworkers too, we've been talking about it, and we're excited that fast fishing, but with new changes can also lead to some new problems. So we're a little apprehensive about the changes, but we're excited, but a little apprehensive.
All right. Well, I think I think Jordan answered a question in the chat. I don't know if anybody wants to add kind of, are you seeing students visiting college campuses? Maybe there's been a change kind of since COVID with students getting out and on campuses.
Yeah, definitely. So one of our roles is trying to create college tours and try to like show our students to as many colleges as we can as possible. I've currently taken my students to App State. I've taken them to UNC Charlotte, and I plan on doing some more next year or during the spring semester. And that has been extremely helpful, especially being in a rural area. Like a lot of students haven't even been out of our county, haven't even saw the ocean. And so it's been one of my like main things is like trying to take them as many college tours as I can, because a lot of my students don't get out and see these colleges. And I feel like COVID has really impacted it too, just because people are just kind of scared to get out now, and they don't really are kind of apprehensive about it and not sure where it's at and how to schedule a college campus tour and stuff like that. So our biggest thing has been trying to take them to as many colleges as we can throughout the during the school, and then also through CCAC we get funding, a small amount of funding specifically for field trips. So we've been definitely utilizing that, because some of our barriers are the financial barrier. So we try to make these field trips completely free for our students, so they don't have to worry about money.
We had another question. Do you have support in developing a school profile for your schools to help share more contextual information with colleges? So I know that's probably more the counselors that you're working with, but do you feel like you're able, like I know Brennan, you're in Surrey County. I don't know if it's something where students can take dual enrollment, but they have to provide their own transportation. Like I know that's helpful contextual information. So do you feel like you're able to share that or have support in that in sharing your students' content?
Yeah, so for the dual enrollment, we're really lucky. The community college is right beside of Surrey Central. So a lot of them that don't have their driver's license or have that transportation, they just literally walk. But for the students that have their driver's license, they drive. But for the students that whenever they graduate and they decide to attend Surrey, Surrey Community College, there is actually a transportation system that will pick up students, which I know it's limited, but they do have that option, which is really nice. But as far as our school profile, so I'm going to say ours is like 2 pages long for each school. It's very simple. They just change it every year with depending on the graduation number and stuff like that. But one thing that I wish is for our school profile to have more of those things in it, like, our area, like the percentage of students involved and stuff, the other things that we have involved. I know that from last year when I looked at our school profile, it was very simple and straightforward.
Yeah, I would agree that my school is about the same, at least at First Flight. I'm less familiar with the Hatteras school profile. But at First Flight, we do sit down together at the beginning of the year to do the school profile. And like Brennan's, it does provide some context. Our dual enrollment's online. We offer these AP courses and things like that. I mean, obviously, I wish it could be longer, could be more in depth, but I think that might just be something that's not really possible, because how do you quantify like what students are doing and to what extent? The one thing that we struggle with every year is like putting the standardized test score, like averages and stuff on the school profile, because obviously we have less students taking it. So it's either less accurate, and we have students that aren't putting as much effort into it because they've not been required. But that's something that I know that we butt heads about every year, is what do we do with the standardized test scores and stuff like that on the school profile?
Any other questions for our guests? Well, I just want to reiterate a thank you to all of you for taking time out of your day to join us and for all the work that you do. I know it's hard work, but I know it's also really rewarding to be able to see that whole college application process, especially over 2 years. So thank you all so much for joining, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I think we're nearing the end here. So I think Renee was going to share a few more general SACAC updates, and then we were just going to have a quick discussion about relevant things going on in our state. So go ahead, Renee.
Okay, thank you. If you can go to the next slide. There's a couple of QR codes. So as I mentioned, here is the membership QR code for anyone who's on the call and is not a member. You can scan and it'll take you right to that page. And again, if you're a public high school counselor or a CBO college access counselor, it's completely free. And the other thing I would probably recommend is that you share this with your peers who are also in the same public schools and CBOs, because I attend meetings all the time, and if there's a lot of public school counselors, I will ask, you know, how many of you have heard of SACAC? And many people are saying they have not heard. And I think it's just an opportunity missed for so many public school counselors and access counselors to be involved. They don't have to pay anything, and they can get some support, and they could also possibly get some funding to attend some of the programming that SACAC has. So hopefully that's helpful. And then if you go to the next slide, as mentioned, the annual conference is coming up in March, and it's going to be in Raleigh. It's going to be held at the Raleigh Convention Center. The host hotel is going to be the Marriott Raleigh City Center. And I think you need to wait until you actually register. It says registration is going to happen this month. We'll see, unless it's going to roll out at the beginning of the year. But as soon as it opens up, it would probably be a great idea to get registered if you can. And then I think at that point you can have access to the discount for the hotel if you need to stay. Okay, next slide. And this was what Shannon was mentioning. We got an announcement on email, so I put it in here. I wasn't sure that she was going to bring that up. So here are all of the co-chairs and the places that can be filled. So there's a volunteer form. I don't know if she shared that, but if you go to the SACAC page, the volunteer form should be there. And I believe we're also going to share this out, this entire presentation out after we'll get it back in a day or so, and then we can share it out to everybody. So if you're interested in getting involved, there's a lot of opportunity to do that. And then I think there's one more slide, and I think this was our missing slide. This is the one that that Courtney mentioned. She said it's not a slide about SACAC leads, but actually we didn't know where the slide went. I think it was under the wrong category, so we moved it to the bottom. So this actually should have gone with Courtney's stuff. And here are the QR codes if you're interested in the mentorship program or in SACAC leads. I think she talked about both of those. And I think that was it for, oh, one more thing. Yes, we do have a college fair in Charlotte, and that is going to be on March 23rd. And that is through NACAC. So you would actually, you know, they always need volunteers. So that's the first thing. If you want to volunteer, I volunteered last year, even though it's a couple of hours of drive over. I volunteered for the fair and just ran the table with other counselors to help people come through there. And they have a lot of questions. They don't really know how to navigate the fair. They don't know what questions to ask, or they have more college counseling specific type questions. So she could always use volunteers. And there is not, to my knowledge, there is not going to be one in Raleigh this year, but you can see all of the fairs that are going on across the country. And this is for spring. And all of this can be accessed if you go to NACAC College Fair. If you want to also, I think they have some flyers if you want to share it out to your students to get registered, because they have to register. It's free, but they have to register online, and they get like a barcode that they take with them to the fair. Okay, and I think that is it. And now you have the state update, Allie.
Yeah, Renee, we're just trying to brainstorm what we knew that we thought would be helpful. So these were just a few we thought of, but also we have a great collection of minds in the room. So hope this is space where people will share relevant updates or trends that they're seeing. So we have a few of those. So again, to my knowledge, there has not been an official announcement. So my update here for the SAT, ACT testing waiver for the UNC system is we have no update. Thank you, Sean, if you want to add something later. But as far as we know, we have not had an official announcement for that yet. I know at least at UNC Chapel Hill, we are waiting for an update there. Maybe that will be forthcoming. I know that there are a lot of questions about it and talk about it, so certainly be helpful if we get an official update. Something that was updated, I think Sean shared this at our meeting last year, so just wanted to remind people now that it is in practice that the UNC system did make an update to the minimum course requirements in regard to foreign language. So it used to be that students have to take 2 levels of one foreign language in order to meet those course requirements to apply to a UNC system school. That is no longer a requirement. It is still strongly encouraged for students to take 2 levels of a foreign language. I know at UNC Chapel Hill, we very much encourage students to continue on with a foreign language because in order to graduate from UNC Chapel Hill, they'll have to take 3 college levels. So the better foundation they have, the more easily they can meet that requirement. Instead of 2 foreign language courses, if students opt not to go that route, they need to fill those 2 courses with core classes. So English, math, science, history, foreign, or another core class. They would need to take 2 additional core classes, an extra English, an extra math. Computer science is also being considered as a foreign language. I think Renee just shared, but just a reminder for our North Carolinians that the Charlotte National College Fair is March 23rd. And yes, some overlap with SACAC. So yes, no Raleigh NACAC, and then it's the same day. And then the virtual drive-in workshop, I think this was shared earlier, will be on Friday, February 9th from 9 to 11. We'll feature a college admissions panel, a session about supporting undocumented students, and then SACAC will send invitations closer to the event. So be on the lookout for those. And then I think just wanted to open it up to what are you seeing across the state? I think we'll wrap up in a few in just a bit, but I will stop sharing my screen for a second in case anybody else wants to add anything, and I'll try to catch up on the chat.
I think Sean has wants to jump in. Sean, you want to jump in?
Yeah, just on the topic of the NACAC fairs. So again, those dates are established and set by NACAC. The degree to which they engage with SACAC directly is pretty hit and miss. With the fair that's scheduled in Charlotte, the original date for that fair was actually the opening date of the SACAC conference in March. So it was going to be on Sunday. We were able to push them to move it off of that date, but they moved it to the day before, which we recognize there may be some folks that are pulled in multiple directions. There may be pre-conference things that universities have set up. We had to do quite a lot of advocacy and pushing to get it moved from their original date. So it's unfortunate that there may be conflicts with pre-conference things, but it's better than it conflicting with the opening day of the conference, which had to be our primary concern with getting NACAC to change that. The Raleigh Fair, to our knowledge, may not be coming back at all. It's not on the calendar. So what the image they showed there before is the final slate. Again, NACAC sets those dates and those locations. We do not have a great deal of input into where those happen. And so just keep that in mind that that may be the case going forward for those of you that have been a part of the Raleigh one in the past. Thanks. That's all I got.
Thanks, Sean.
Anybody else have anything that they want to share for the good of the group?
Hey, Allie, I would just like to take the time to thank you and Renee for your hard work on putting this state meeting together. For those of you who are kind of new to the state meeting setting, these 2 ladies have been in charge of organizing this meeting, getting our committee update presenters in line and getting all this dates scheduled and everything else. And so they have a real life, they have a real job too. And so we could not do this work without them. There will be another state meeting this year that will take place at the annual conference. And so if you are able to join us in Raleigh, we'd love to see you participate in that state meeting. And certainly if there are topics that you'd like to see addressed there in Raleigh, please forward that on to either the State New Initiatives Committee email, or you can send it directly to Renee and Allie. Either way, we would like to make sure that we're addressing the topics that are on your minds and trends that are pertinent to your roles. so that we can be addressing your needs. So, but anyway, thank you so much to Renee and to Allie. Also, thank you to some of our board members that were able to join the call today. As you know, we have President Christy Conley on the call. We have President-elect Sean Kennedy, and we also are represented by many board members today who were giving those direct committee updates. So really appreciate your participation today and representation.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you to everyone. I think any last minute questions?
All right, well, it's 11 o'clock. That seems like the perfect time to wrap it up. So thank you to everyone. I can put my email address in the chat. Renee wants to put hers. I think that was all we had on the last slide. Appreciate it, and hopefully see some of you in Raleigh in March.
Thanks,
everyone. Have a great day.